Let's take a look at a game from a series we've talked about a few times in the past. I'm sure watchers of this channel will know about GalGun. Out of all the fan-servicey rail shooters in existence, GalGun is most of them. A side-scrolling spin-off came out a few years ago called GalGuardian's Demon Purge. I did a review on it when it came out and I did enjoy it, though it's not a fan-service-filled game like the GalGun games. But it has a few hints here and there, and then there's that part in the end of the game which you may or may not get to. Some people thought it was a bit strange to do such a spin-off, but Inti Creates, the developer, actually has an excellent track record with side-scrollers, so knowing that, it kind of makes more sense. Since then, due to copyright reasons, the name changed from Grim Guardians to GalGuardians, and a second game was developed, called GalGuardians Servants of the Dark, which is what we're looking at now. I was emailed a download code recently and decided to give it a shot since I thought the first GalGuardians game was pretty good, though it kind of does make me wonder about the future of the series. We haven't actually seen a proper normal GalGun game in a while, just re-releases and stuff like that. Non-gacha fan service games have been slowly dwindling away or changing into something more tame, so yeah, who knows what'll happen. You're seeing the PC version here. I like playing these kinds of games on a keyboard. There's also Nintendo Switch, PS4, and PS5 versions if you prefer that. Also nice is the fact that there's a demo so you can just try it out and see if you like it. Just so you know, physical copies will come out at a later date. The basics of the first GalGuardians applies to the second game as well. The games feel very similar to play, have basically the same art style, and have two playable characters you can switch between, with one having a gun while the other has a melee weapon. The protagonists are two demon maid sisters, Kirika and Masha. They are loyal servants of Demon Lord Maxim. Kirika is the older and more serious of the two, while Masha is the more happy-go-lucky and energetic sister. The game starts with both sisters arriving home from holidays when they find the whole castle in disarray. Turns out during their absence, Lord Maxim was defeated by another demon, Demon Lord of Thunder, Lysanorg, with the help of his demon maid who I don't know, can't remember her name. Liza, something like that. The story follows you as you try and restore Maxim to his former glory by collecting his bones that got scattered across the land. The bones act as a sort of experience points substitute, so the more bones you get, that equals better abilities as well as increased health and attack. The tone of the story is actually relatively lighthearted. Maxim seems like a decent guy who often ends up at the sharp end of his maid's sarcastic comments. It's amusing how he doesn't have his Demon Lord aura to him at all. Going by how his other servants and followers talk to him, it doesn't seem like he's the tyrant type. Maxim acts as a sort of guide as you play along, while also acting as the straight man during cutscenes. Gameplay is fluid feeling when jumping around, and the differences between Kirika and Masha in terms of their attacks feel adequately complementary. I'm not sure if it's down to balancing differences between the first game and this, but in the first one I preferred the gun generally. Here I find myself doing the opposite and mainly using Masha with the whip when running around. I think it's just a little bit more difficult to use the gun in this game. Platforming is fun and you'll encounter many enemies and obstacles that are common in metroidvania style games. You can do the usual things while platforming, like double jumping, dashing, which also gets you through one block high gaps. You can use items, like lanterns, and weapons that act like grenades, bombs, and projectiles. You can also learn abilities as you progress. One of the first things is double jump, for example. Later on, you also get the ability to dash in midair. I noticed that between the first and second game that they gave every character the ability to do something rather than just one. The best example I can think of is that in the first game, only one character can crouch. In this game, you can just dash with either one and you get through. You'll notice a few differences like that as you play, and generally I think the changes are good. There's a good amount of puzzle elements, gathering items to open doors, finding switches, etc. It all becomes noticeably more complex as the game goes on, which is good. It keeps repetition down. Unlike the first GalGuardians game, dying doesn't bring you back to the last checkpoint with the surviving character. You just switch to the other character immediately without interruption, and you can then quickly try and bring the other character back to life and keep going. In the first game, you'd have to go where the other character died and then try to resuscitate them. But if both characters die, you go back to your last save spot, so yeah, I think that's fair. This is another one of those quality of life improvements. Helps remove frustrating moments, though I don't think this game is too frustrating compared to actual 80s and 90s era side-scrollers. Speaking of difficulty, there's 3 difficulty settings: casual, veteran, and Then there's one higher, and I can't remember what the name of that is off the top of my head there. Veteran can be considered normal. That's what I played. You can change the game's difficulty whenever you want in the castle. The game flows in a way you'd expect. You unlock an area, you go through that area, usually utilizing a skill or ability you just learned, and then you face the boss. A classic formula that works well. I would consider the game to be semi-linear. There's a flag on the map screen telling you generally where you need to go, but the actual path you have to figure out yourself, which can require a bit of back and forth and searching around. You'll also stumble upon some sealed off areas or places you can't get to, which later on you can reach when you get new abilities and stuff. There is a fast travel system with boats, and also at each save point you can go back to the castle. But honestly, it doesn't feel that practical. You just end up running around for various reasons anyway. Other games like, for example, Tevi handle the fast travel thing much better. Just off the top of my head, they're a somewhat recent example of a fast travel system that works okay. And unlike the first GalGun where you have to like find, all the students, the girls there, and also the panties, here you're just searching for bones and also the souls of some of Maxim's followers there. So basically that allows you to revive some characters in the castle that can sell you stuff, etc. The graphics look great, not particularly original. We've seen 16-bit style games a lot over the years. Ironically, there's probably more 16-bit inspired games than 16-bit games at this point. But everything looks good. Characters, enemies, items, environments look distinctive, and they're easy to distinguish from one another. It sounds like a pretty basic thing, but when you add too much detail when it comes to having such large pixel sizes, things can become a little bit busy to the eyeball. Lighting effects work well, and the animations look good too. They cared enough to include details like different walking animations for the protagonists. In cutscenes you can see Kirika walks very formally and has her hands clasped together there, while Masha has this energetic girly walk, for example. The character art looks nice in cutscenes, and things like the menus fit the theme. The whole demon world sort of look always reminds me of Disgaea. It's like a whimsical Halloween type thing. Spooky but not scary. Oddly, the game does have a notable amount of blood. That's only really a problem if you're Nintendo from the 90s. The music is pretty good and it fits the game genre well enough. Voices are in Japanese. The first game was dubbed in English, but that's not the case here. I'm gonna guess it's related to that voice actor strike. And then all the various sound effects like hitting enemies and things like that all sound pretty satisfying. Overall, I think Guardian's Servants of the Dark is a fun game. I like the lighthearted approach to the story. There's enough of a choice with 3 different difficulty levels when it comes to accommodating various skill levels. Compared to the first Guardians game, Servants of the Dark doesn't lean into its GalGun heritage as much as the previous title. It's more of its own thing, which I don't mind. There's still a bit of fan service here and there. There's an occasional cutscene illustration and boss fight. The demo makes it easy to try out and see if it's your thing, so I encourage you to do that and make up your own mind. That all being said, I hope that maybe one day we'll get a real GalGun game again at some point, though I don't mind if we have a Metroidvania spin-off going along in parallel. So that's the game. I hope you enjoyed the review. Remember to check out the channel membership and Patreon if you want to see videos early and get some updates on what I'm working on. You can check the links in the description, which also includes all the social media stuff. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again in the next video.